Okay, hello everybody. Today we are going to start a new section and the topic is absolute value. There are two parts to this. One, we are going to talk about the operation in terms of the operational value of absolute value of x, and then or absolute value number, and then we are going to go ahead and talk about absolute value in terms of function. First, in terms of operation as an algebraic operation. Well, first of all, notation. The notation for absolute value is this two basically straight bar, vertical line. So if I have to write it again, so it will be just like that. Those two straight bars, just like a bracket, but they're not curved, they're a straight line. That is the notation for absolute value. Whatever we put inside here, so in this case I put in x, so this reads absolute value of x. Simple as that. Now what does it do? What it does is that it only looks at the magnitude of value of x. So when we deal with the operation of absolute value, it only deals with the magnitude of x. That means no negative values will come out of that. Okay, so the answer to an absolute value of anything will always be positive. And that is the most important part of the absolute value in terms of operation, okay, which translate into the absolute value function as well. So let's do a few examples. For example, if I ask what is the absolute value of 2? Well, it's just 2 itself. Whatever it is, we'll take the positive value of that, and that would be the answer. Because 2 is already positive, that's not going to change anything. Look at this one. What is absolute value of negative 2? Well, that is also 2. Okay, so it takes only it takes the magnitude, just that. So anytime that you take the absolute value of anything, it will always be the positive value of that. So let me give you another example. Suppose I give you this number, negative or minus negative 3 in the bracket, an absolute value of that. Well, that's just basically we're following BEDMAS. So first deal with the bracket, and in this case you have to use the absolute value sign, the notation, as the bracket. So this is your big bracket right here. Okay, so we're going to deal with the inside. That's what we have to deal with first. Here we go. So that will give us positive 3, because negative times a negative, that's positive. Great. Now we go ahead and say, what is the absolute value of positive 3? Well, that is 3. Very good. In terms of any other algebraic operation, you follow BEDMAS. Now let's look at some algebraic operation. Let's look at this example. We're going to evaluate these expressions and see what happens, and we're going to follow BEDMAS. So here it is, the first one, 2 plus negative 4 inside the absolute value. We're going to use the absolute value sign as the main bracket, so we have to deal with the inside first. So let's deal with the inside, and when we do that, 2 minus 4, that's negative 2 inside the absolute value. And then what is the absolute value of minus 2 is, or negative 2 is, positive 2. Simple as that. Okay, let's look at example 2. We have this example here. We have to simplify that and evaluate that, come up with the final answer. So we're going to go ahead, and now we're going to deal with the inside bracket first. So inside the bracket, remember, BEDMAS comes to play again. So we're going to deal with this first, and then we're going to deal with the minus 2, because multiplication comes before addition, subtraction, and then we're going to go ahead and simplify. So what do we have? We have, so minus 2 is as stay outside. Inside the bracket, that will give you, so 4 plus negative 2, that's positive 2, and then we have the negative 1 outside. Okay, all right, now we're going to deal with the multiplication and then go ahead. So in here now we have minus 4 or negative 4, negative 1, and then close the absolute value bracket. All right, what is the inside again? let's deal with that. That is -5. -1 minus 1 is -5. And now, what is the absolute value of -5? Is +5. And that's how you do that. Okay? So, BEDMAS, BEDMAS, BEDMAS. You follow BEDMAS. Okay, let's look at example 3. Same idea. This time, this expression has got two absolute value terms. That's okay. We're going to go ahead and simplify each one of them separately and come back. Let's follow the BEDMAS and then come back and simplify both. Okay, this first step, we dealt with 3 times -3 for the first, in the first absolute value term. In second absolute value term, we will deal with the -3 plus 1. And also we can deal with the 2 squared. Great. Now we're going to go ahead and put them together. The first term, we're just going to do the addition. So that would be -11 inside the absolute value. Now the second one, we have to deal with this multiplication first. So let's deal with that. So that will end up being 4 plus 8, because -4 times -2 is +8. Close the bracket. And then the last step is, in each one of those, the absolute value definition operation applies. So here, absolute value of 11, -11 is 11. Minus, what is the absolute value? What is that? That's 12. So what is the absolute value of 12? Is just 12. This negative does not change. That's outside of absolute value. That doesn't change. Now we have to deal with the subtraction, and the final answer will be -1. That is it. All right. So the more you do this, the easier it gets. Practice, practice, practice. Follow BEDMAS, and then apply the absolute value operation.